Focus with Talat Mahmood
on BBC Radio Manchester and BBC Radio Lancashire.
Now, today marks the 23rd anniversary of the death of one of the world's most famous ghazal singers. Born in Lucknow in what was then British India, it said that from a young age, Talat Mahmood would sit through all-night music concerts. Coming from a conservative Muslim background in the 1930s and 40s, singing and the entertainment industry was not encouraged. However, despite the objections of his parents, he followed his dreams and chose to work in the flourishing Indian film industry, eventually becoming a household name. Now, my connection to all this, you may think, is I'm actually named after the singer himself. Now, my dad wanted to name me Talat Mahmood and my mum Umar Farooq. So they had a compromise and named me Talat Farooq. So ever since, I've been listening to Talat Mahmood thanks to my dad, and that's why I'm also into Asian classical music, because of my dad's listening habits. So I think he would be very excited to hear me talk about Talat Mahmood if he was still around. But anyway, Sahar Zaman is a newscaster for the Times Network based in New Delhi. She also happens to be the granddaughter of the King of Ghazal. Let me welcome Sahar Zaman. Hello.
All going well, and it was a lovely anecdote that you shared about your name as well. It was lovely to hear that.
Yes, and it's something obviously I've lived with for many a year. Many people are curious, well, why decide Talat? And I said, well, this is the reason why I'm Talat Farooq. I have a hyphen, Talat Farooq. So it was named after your grandfather. So first of all, how is it being the granddaughter of the wonderful ghazal singer for you?
The realization to that hits you much later in life. When you're growing up, he's like a granddad. He was actually my grand uncle, my grandmom's brother. So he was my grand uncle, and but he was like just another member of the family, and who was there to indulge and spoil you with treats and trips. You grew up and realize much later of the legend and the genius that you're connected with, and of course it's a question of immense pride to have that connection, and the realization that there's someone in the family who's left behind a treasure of music and a lifetime of inspiration, really.
Well, we'll talk more about that in a moment, but while visiting the UK on tour, Talat Mahmood spoke to Dick Hatch on Eastward Northwestwards in the mid-70s on BBC Radio Manchester's Asian programme back then. So take a listen to this first of all.
Assalamu alaikum, namaste, sat sri akal. This is Muhammad Majid, wishing you a warm welcome and a very good evening to Eastward Northwestwards here at BBC Radio Manchester. First of all, I think we should give you a chance to listen to Talat's interview. With Talat this week is Dick Hatch, of course, our producer.
Talat, why have you chosen to come to this country at this particular point?
Well, first of all, I wanted to come to this country because it's a beautiful country, and I like the people here. They're very polite and nice, and I like to visit this place. That's why I've come here.
Have you found any difference between audiences here and in your own country?
No, not at all. Not as far as the listening is concerned. But you see, in the behavior, there's a little difference. You see, people are more disciplined here and more polite, and we have some sort of, sometimes we have a little indiscipline and rowdy audiences in our country, which is not here. I have not noticed any such thing. It may be that it's my type of singing that I don't entertain, rowdy elements.
You must presumably in this country sing mostly to Asians who've come to live over here, but do you get any Westerners listening to you?
Oh yes. Many Westerners come because I am known as a typical Indian singer, I don't believe in mixing up styles, Western or Eastern. So I'm typically an Eastern singer. That's why many Europeans and many English people also come to listen to me.
You are, of course, very, very popular. How do you feel about being, as near as we can get in this country to a pop star?
Well, I am popular, but I know that I am popular because of my listeners. They have made me popular. So that's why I feel more humble whenever I face the popularity or the height of my career. Then I become more humble, and that is the way I think I have lived.
We're used in this country to sort of singers who are very, very popular getting their hair pulled out and their clothing removed for souvenirs and signatures and things. Do you get all of that?
No, you'll have a look at me. I have no hair on top, So it's not pulled out anyway. No, we don't have such things. But we do have a lot of emotions. People start crying, It happened here also. I think it was in Coventry. That ladies started crying after I had performed and when they came to meet me. So there's the sort of emotionalism I face everywhere, wherever I go.
How did you come into singing in the first place?
Well, that was, a natural thing, you see. It was not in my family. My father was not a singer. But I had a good voice, and my aunt, who was a great, connoisseur of Indian music, she put me under ustads. So I started learning, and that's how I became a singer.
But you've been in films a lot. Is there any real difference between being a film star and being a singer?
Oh yes, there's a lot of it. A film star has to act also. I have been acting, but not as to my liking. You see, I would like to be a singer first.
What was wrong with being a film star?
Well, that needs a lot of freedom. I don't feel very free in front of cameras. Rather camera shy, that's why. But I'm very free in front of the microphones. There's a difference.
Are you pleased with the success of your tour?
Oh yes, I am very happy. Actually, it is so well promoted. I don't think anywhere I have seen such wonderful promotion as our organizers have done here.
Well, you're singing here in Manchester. What about, where are you going after this?
Well, we are going to Leicester and Birmingham, so we have been there, but Leicester we are going.
And when are you going back home?
Back home, I think by about 7th or 8th of this month. No, next month.
I should think you'll be glad to get away from English weather, won't you?
No, it's not that actually. Though I don't like cold and rain together. It's very cold here, so sometimes my voice is affected. So that's the only trouble. Otherwise, I love this place. I have been coming here, not for performing, but I have always liked this place.
Talat, thank you very much for coming and talking to us here on Eastward Northwestward.
Thank you very much.
And now a song by Talat.
There you go. That was an interview back in the mid-70s by Dick Hatch, who was one of the producers here at BBC Radio Manchester. Sahar, was that the first time you heard that interview?
Yes, it was. It was so interesting to hear that. It was lovely to have gone into your archives and to replay this for Talat Mahmood fans, to hear him talk about his tour. Of course, a lot is known about this particular tour that we was talking about, but yes, not heard this interview before.
Right, well, there, little surprise for you there. Now, in terms of a singer, we obviously love his lovely smooth voice. That's what sort of captured many a fan, I'm sure. But in terms of film industry, was that the main breakthrough for him, to really get recognized? What stories did you hear from your grandfather?
Well, he was a very fresh voice for the film industry. Of course, he was there at a time when even the Indian film industry, the Hindi film industry, or what we now call Bollywood, he was at a time when the Indian film industry was also in the process of establishing itself. And therefore, he's known as one of the pillars for having established Indian film music and introduced and established this genre of singing ghazals and having songs in Indian films that have Urdu poetry. So of course, his USP, so to say, was to one. As far as his voice is concerned, to have that distinct quality of a very, very gentle, soft, velvety voice. And secondly, the command that he had on the Urdu language, whatever he sang, whatever Urdu poetry he sang, epitomized the emotion that the poet wrote with. So these were two very strong qualities that he had, which then went on to become much sought after in the film industry.
And of course, talking about the film industry, let's go to another piece of music. And this is Sab Din Ek Saman Nahi Tha, 1941. And this was with HMV, and this was his first ever known recording. So let's listen to this.
सब दिन एक समान नहीं था, सब दिन एक समान नहीं था, बन जाऊंगा क्या से क्या मैं, बन जाऊंगा क्या से क्या मैं, इसका तो कुछ ध्यान नहीं था, सब दिन एक समान नहीं था। उसने मुझको था अपनाया, उसने मुझको था अपनाया, बना मैं उसकी जीवन छाया, बना मैं उसकी जीवन छाया, मेरा गुलशन हरा भरा था, मेरा गुलशन हरा भरा था, उजड़ा या सुनसान नहीं था, उजड़ा या सुनसान नहीं था, सब दिन एक समान नहीं था। उसके गले का हार कभी था, मुझसे उसको प्यार कभी था, उसके गले का हार कभी था, मुझसे उसको प्यार कभी था, बसा हुआ संसार हृदय का, बसा हुआ संसार हृदय का, सब दिन तो शमशान नहीं था, सब दिन तो शमशान नहीं था, सब दिन एक समान नहीं था। कभी गीत जो हंस कर गाया, रोकर उसको अब दोहराया, कभी गीत जो हंस कर गाया, रोकर उसको अब दोहराया, मैं था स्वामी सुख नगरी का, मैं था स्वामी सुख नगरी का, दुख का तो मेहमान नहीं था, दुख का तो मेहमान नहीं था, सब दिन एक समान नहीं था, सब दिन एक समान नहीं था।
Beautiful. 1941. What do you make of that, Sahar?
Well, this is actually a very, very early recording, one of the first few in his career. In fact, this was the HMV recording that catapulted his career. This was a private single, and it wasn't from any film album, but one of those songs certainly that brought immediate attention and notice to him.
And also, when you compare that to music of today, it's simple, isn't it? Harmonium, tabla, and of course, the voice is what's really, the main feature. Instead of all the noise that we tend to get in lots of the mixes that we get in music nowadays. What do you think?
This was something very similar that he felt as well when the music of the 80s started. And it started to become very loud and with synthetic sounds, and the simplicity of it was vanishing. So this is something that he felt very strongly about as well, because in his songs, in his style, yes, it is a lot about simple arrangement of music, and also a lot of importance given to the lyrics, to the poetry that has been written for the songs, which he felt very strongly about.
And he was a real advocate, as you said, for the Urdu language. And do you think there is still, in today's day and age, an appetite for that sort of music and the lyrics of those days?
Sadly, not. In terms of an appetite, I think it's just about reintroducing this quality of music and poetry to the youngsters, and they would pick it up, because I speak from personal experience here. Since I handle this a tribute platform dedicated to my granddad, and I call it Jashn-e-Talat. And a big part of this tribute platform was to reach out to youngsters and go to colleges and do singing competitions there. And when I had youngsters from 18 to 20 years of age studying in college, participating in this competition, they came to me thanking me first to reintroduce this music to them, saying that we'd heard of his name. Of course, we knew that he was a star, but we hadn't heard his music and we hadn't tried his music for ourselves. We just knew that he's someone that our parents or our grandparents' generation admired. But they were so taken up by the beauty of his voice and the beauty of the lyrics. I mean, youngsters never realized that the power of lyrics and Urdu poetry can be so strong. So I believe that there is an appetite. It's just that it needs to be reintroduced and marketed again, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I first came across him visually when we saw your grandfather on the television, and he performed Bechain Nazar Betab Jigar, and that was from the film Yasmin in 1955, and he performed that live at BBC Pebble Mill Studios in Birmingham. And I remember when I was working there for television at the Pebble Mill Studios, which no longer exists sadly, and being there and thinking this is where they recorded all these wonderful artists from South Asia. So let's take a listen to this particular track. It's a live recording at the BBC.
शुक्रिया बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। मैं साहब अभी आपके सामने उस शय को पेश कर रहा हूँ जिसका आपको बहुत इंतज़ार है। मेरे पास वो लफ्ज़ नहीं है कि मैं क्या कह के बुलाऊँ उसको, लेकिन मैं एक ही लफ्ज़ जानता हूँ, शहंशाह गज़ल आग़ाए तलत महमूद।
बेचैन नजर बेताब जिगर, बेचैन नजर बेताब जिगर, ये दिल है किसी का दीवाना, है दीवाना। कब शाम हो और वो शम्मा जले, कब उड़ कर पहुँचे परवाना, है परवाना। है दिल का चमन खिलने के लिए, आएगा कोई मिलने के लिए। है दिल का चमन खिलने के लिए, आएगा कोई मिलने के लिए। फूलों से कहो तारों से कहो, चुपके से सजा दें वीराना, हाय वीराना। जब रात जरा शबनम से धुले, लहराई हुई वो जुल्फ खुले। जब रात जरा शबनम से धुले, लहराई हुई वो जुल्फ खुले। नजरों से नजर एक भेद कहे, दिल दिल से कहे एक अफसाना, हाय अफसाना। रंगीन फिजा छाए तो जरा, वादे पे कोई आए तो जरा, रंगीन फिजा छाए तो जरा, वादे पे कोई आए तो जरा। है जोश वफा दिल चीज है क्या, हम जान भी दे दे नजराना, हाय नजराना। बेचैन नजर बेताब जिगर, ये दिल है किसी का दीवाना, हाय दीवाना।
And that was a live recording at the BBC Pebble Mill studios, which sadly is no longer. That was in Birmingham. And the first time I indeed encountered Talat Mahmood on the screen. And before that, it was on one of the old reel-to-reels that my dad used to play. So, Sahar, what do you remember of that particular track, if at all?
Well, I've heard the original film track, of course, several times, and it's a very strong reminder of how Talat Mahmood was at ease with all genres of music. You know, mostly people say that his voice was more suited to melancholy and love-lorn songs. That's true. His voice was very much suited, but he was as good and as beautiful sounding in even happy and peppy numbers. And this is one of those songs which is a strong reminder of that he could cut across different genres and handle different kinds of music. And also about recording at the BBC studio there. He had traveled so much for all of his tours and concerts. In fact, he was the first singer from India who started world tours, and he started world tours in the prime of his career. I mean, he was touring, he started with East Africa, and he was touring other countries starting from the early 1950s, which was the thick of his career at that time. And he actually established touring for music from Bollywood.
And we'll talk about his different language abilities as well. But I just want to go back to your platform that you've created for your grandfather, Jashn-e-Talat. So tell us a little bit more about that, and how effective has that been in people then paying attention to the ghazal singer?
Jashn-e-Talat, as it literally translates, is into a festival of Talat and a celebration of Talat. And I started 4 to 5 years back, and it started on a very personal note here because I felt very strongly about giving back to his legacy and about this immense pride that one feels of being connected to him, and the power of his voice that one needs to hear. It, of course, started with the original intention of reaching out to youngsters and reintroducing his voice and his music to people who haven't heard his voice. It was a very satisfying, and it has been a very satisfying experience here to reach out to youngsters because they have reacted and responded so positively. It's not just about them actively participating in the Jashn-e-Talat platforms. It's also about staying on with his music, going back home and digging into the treasure that he's left behind. And my effort also has been to take Jashn-e-Talat to all our contemporary festivals of today. We've toured with it to across all big cities in India. I've been wanting, of course, to take it international as well because he has a very, very huge following across continents. And because it's a multi-performance platform, there are young singers as well as established singers. We have a lot of established performers and artists on our platform as well, who sing his songs and perform at his songs as for this tribute. So it's about singing, it's about dancing to his music. I've had great legends such as Shobna Narayanji dance Kathak over his music. It's about theatrical plays in his name, about his life. It's about painting his portraits by established artists live on stage while there's a music performance going on as well. So it's been a very satisfying experience here, and the greatest joy here is to help someone discover the real beauty of Talat Mahmood. And stay with it. They start with their own journey of discovering his music and what Urdu gaiki and Urdu ghazals and Urdu poetry is all about. I remember this Urdu platform that approached me, saying, what has been your learnings in Urdu? So I said, my learnings in Urdu has just been listening to my granddad. I think that's the best way to get introduced to the language here as well, because you understand the real import, the emotions of the poetry as well as the pronunciation. Yes.
Well, what little language I speak, it's actually down to a lot of the music that we have been listening to growing up. So it's absolutely true. That's I'm now going to play you a Bengali song which was recorded for the film Rajdanir Bouquet during a 1960 private visit to Dhaka, which was then East Pakistan. And this is Tumhare Lageche Etoji Balo. Excuse my Bangla, but let's have a listen to this.
তোমারে লেগেছে এত যে ভালো চাঁদ বুঝি তা জানে রাতেরও বাসরে দোসর হয়ে তাই সে আমার টানে তাই সে আমার টানে রাতেরও আকাশে তারারও মিতালি আমারে দিয়েছে সুরেরও গীতালি কত যে আশায় তোমারি নামে জ্বালিয়ে আমি রেখেছি দীপালি আকুল ভোমরা বলে সে কথা বকুলেরও কানে কানে চাঁদ বুঝি তা জানে।
For those who have just tuned into this, we are doing a Talat Mahmood special celebrating his anniversary. And Sahar, that shows his versatility in languages too, doesn't it really?
Many people don't know that he had an entirely separate career in Bengali music, in Bangla songs, and he went by the name Tapan Kumar. So a lot of his recordings in Bengali music and Bengali songs for the Bengali film industry of that time were in the name of Tapan Kumar. So he's had a entirely separate career in Bengali music. Apart from that, he's sung a lot of regional songs. He's sung in across at least 15 to 16 regional languages, and this includes Tamil, this includes Malayalam, this includes Punjabi, this includes Bhojpuri, this includes Gujarati as well. I mean, I am amazed the number of fans that he has in Kerala and Gujarat. I mean, and this is from music in their own language.
That's wonderful. Now, finally, how does Talat Mahmood sit amongst all the other greats in India?
He's a national treasure, undoubtedly. He's a personality from that era who has played a very, very important role in establishing an important genre of music in our film industry. Someone who's added thrust to Urdu poetry. and popularized it amongst in mainstream film industry and in mainstream media as well. And he's someone, of course, who has been honored much by the government in the Padma Bhushan that he was given by the government of India. And in about a couple of years, I think 4 years, 3 to 4 years back, there was also a special commemorative stamp that was released in his honor. So he's, of course, most certainly amongst the legends of the country, and I would say the legends of world music, for having made this contribution. And ever since, of course, while growing up, I looked at him more as a granddad in my personal experience and interactions that I've had with him. And of course, always having been listening to his music ever since I was a child. But when I started Jashn-e-Talat, there was so much more to his career and his contribution that I learned more about, which I wasn't aware of. And it's only made me so much more in agreement with the decision of having started with this platform, because as I said, he's a national treasure himself, and he's left behind a treasure that is just sitting and waiting to be rediscovered by today's generation.
Indeed. And finally, we have the last song, which is of your choice, Pyar Par Bas Tu Nahi Hai. So do you want to tell us a little about that?
It's one of the sweetest and most gentle songs. It's like the lyrics were written for his voice. The music was composed for his voice. And this is also from the film called Sone Ki Chidiya, in which he has acted as well. He was the main lead, and he was cast opposite a huge film star, Nutan. And it was also one of his biggest commercial hits of a film that he starred in as well. So, yeah, this makes it all the more special.
Okay, well, on that note, Sahar, Zaman, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having us as well as part of Jashn-e-Talat. And I'll leave you with this song. We'll see you next week. Take care. Good night.
मेरा लेकिन फिर तू बता दे कि तुझे प्यार करूं या न करूं प्यार पर बस तो नहीं है मेरा लेकिन फिर भी तू बता दे कि तुझे प्यार करूं या न करूं प्यार पर बस तो नहीं है मेरे ख्वाबों के झरोखों को सजाने वाली मेरे ख्वाबों के झरोखों को सजाने वाली तेरे ख्वाबों में कहीं मेरा गुजर है कि नहीं पूछ कर अपनी निगाहों से बता दे मुझको पूछ कर अपनी निगाहों से बता दे मुझको मेरी रातों के मुकद्दर में सहर है कि नहीं मेरी रातों के मुकद्दर में सहर है कि नहीं प्यार पर बस तो नहीं है मेरा लेकिन फिर भी तू बता दे कि तुझे प्यार करूं या न करूं प्यार पर बस तो नहीं है कहीं ऐसा न हो पाऊं मेरे थर्रा जाए कहीं ऐसा न हो पाऊं मेरे थर्रा जाए और तेरी मरमरी बाहों का सहारा मिले अश्क बहते रहे खामोश सियाह रातों में अश्क बहते रहे खामोश सियाह रातों में और तेरे रेशमी आंचल का किनारा मिले और तेरे रेशमी आंचल का किनारा न मिले
Indus with Talat Faruqa 1
on BBC Radio Manchester and BBC Radio Lancashire.